At age 65, he received his first Social Security check for $105. He was broke, living in his car with a fried chicken recipe nobody wanted. 8 years later, he sold Kentucky Fried Chicken for $2 million cash plus a lifetime salary. By his death, KFC had 6,000 locations in 48 countries. This is how Colonel Sanders became successful at the age when most people retire. Harland Sanders didn't start young. He tried everything and failed repeatedly: farmhand, streetcar conductor, soldier, railroad fireman, insurance salesman, ferry operator, tire salesman, and gas station owner. At 65, the government forced him into retirement with a $105 monthly check that couldn't pay his bills. Most people would have accepted defeat. Sanders grabbed his pressure cooker, his secret recipe, and started driving across America trying to sell fried chicken to restaurants. His persistence built a global empire. Harland David Sanders was born on September 9, 1890, on a farm near Henryville, Indiana. His father died when Harland was 6 years old, leaving his mother to support 3 children with no money. She worked in a tomato cannery during the day, leaving young Harland to care for his younger siblings and cook meals. By age 7, he'd learned to cook out of necessity. His mother remarried, but Harland's stepfather was abusive. At age 12, Harland left home and found work as a farmhand, earning minimal wages. For the next 53 years, Sanders tried dozens of jobs and failed at most of them. At 15, he lied about his age and joined the U.S. Army, serving in Cuba for 6 months before being honorably discharged. He returned to Indiana and worked as a railroad fireman, shoveling coal into train engines. Brutal work that destroyed his back. At 18, he married Josephine King and had 3 children, but his constant job changes strained the marriage. Sanders worked as a streetcar conductor, then studied law by correspondence while working as a laborer. He practiced law for several years in Little Rock, Arkansas, but got into a courtroom fistfight with his own client and was disbarred. Another failure. In his 30s, Sanders sold insurance for the Prudential Life Insurance Company but was fired for insubordination. He started a ferry boat company crossing the Ohio River. It failed when a bridge was built, making his ferry obsolete. He tried running a lamp manufacturing company. It collapsed. He sold tires for Michelin. The regional headquarters closed. By 1930, at age 40, Sanders was desperate. He'd failed at a dozen careers. His marriage was falling apart. He had 3 children to support and no steady income. Most people would have given up. Sanders kept trying. In 1930, Sanders became a gas station operator for Shell Oil in Corbin, Kentucky. The station had a small room where Sanders started serving meals to travelers: country ham, steak, and other simple dishes. Word spread that the food was good. Sanders added a dining table, then more tables. Soon he was making more money from food than gasoline. In 1935, the Governor Ruby Laffoon made Sanders a Kentucky colonel in recognition of his contributions to the state's cuisine. The honorary title had no legal meaning, but Sanders loved it. He started wearing white suits and growing a goatee, creating the colonel persona that would become his brand. Sanders perfected his fried chicken recipe during these years. Traditional fried chicken took 30 minutes to cook, too long for hungry travelers. Sanders experimented with pressure cookers, which were new kitchen technology. He discovered that cooking chicken in a pressure cooker with specific seasonings created incredibly juicy, flavorful chicken in just 8 to 9 minutes. His secret recipe used 11 herbs and spices in specific proportions. Sanders mixed the breading himself and guarded the recipe obsessively. The chicken was phenomenally popular. By 1937, his dining operation had expanded to a 142-seat restaurant. Sanders was finally successful at age 47. Sanders' Court and Calf became famous across Kentucky. In 1939, food critic Duncan Hines visited and included Sanders' restaurant in his influential Adventures in Good Eating guidebook. Business exploded. Sanders was serving hundreds of customers daily, earning substantial income for the first time in his life. For the next 15 years, Sanders' Court thrived. He paid off debts, supported his family, and finally achieved financial security. He trademarked Kentucky Fried Chicken in 1952. Everything was perfect. Then disaster struck. In the early 1950s, the Interstate highway system began construction. The new Interstate 75 would bypass Corbin entirely, routing traffic away from Sanders' restaurant. Without highway traffic, Sanders' Court would lose 90% of its customers. Sanders fought desperately to change the highway route. He lobbied politicians, gathered petitions, and argued that the economic impact would devastate Corbin. Nothing worked. The government had decided the route. Sanders' court was doomed. In 1956, Sanders held an auction selling his restaurant, equipment, and property to pay debts. After the sale, he had little money left. He was 65 years old. The government sent him his first Social Security check, $105 per month, about $1,150 today. Sanders calculated that $105 couldn't cover his bills. He'd have to work, but who would hire a 65-year-old man? Most people would have retired quietly, living on Social Security and accepting their fate. Sanders was furious. He refused to accept that his life was over at 65. He had something valuable. A fried chicken recipe that people loved and a pressure cooking method that worked quickly. He decided to franchise his recipe. Sanders' plan was simple but audacious. He'd drive across America visiting restaurants, cook his fried chicken for owners, and convince them to add Kentucky Fried Chicken to their menus using his recipe and method. In exchange, restaurants would pay Sanders 4 cents for every chicken piece sold. It was franchising, though Sanders barely understood the concept. He loaded his pressure cooker, spice mixes, and white suit into his 1946 Ford and started driving. He was 65 years old, living on $105 monthly Social Security, sleeping in his car to save money on motels. He'd visit a restaurant, cook his chicken, and pitch the owner on the franchise deal. The rejections were brutal. Hundreds of restaurants said no. Sanders was too old. The recipe was too complicated. 4 cents per piece was too expensive. Nobody wanted Kentucky Fried Chicken. But Sanders kept going, driving thousands of miles, getting rejected over and over. In 1952, before losing his restaurant, Sanders had given his first franchise to Pete Harmon, who owned a restaurant in Salt Lake City, Utah. Harmon agreed to try Sanders' recipe. The chicken sold incredibly well. Harmon suggested the name Kentucky Fried Chicken to emphasize its southern authenticity. This became Sanders' template. After losing his restaurant in 1956, Sanders focused entirely on franchising. He contacted Pete Harmon again, refining their agreement. Harmon would pay Sanders 4 cents per chicken piece sold and display Kentucky Fried Chicken signage. Harmon agreed, and his sales skyrocketed. In 1957, Harmon sold over 75 chickens per day, all paying Sanders 4 cents per piece. Encouraged by Harmon's success, Sanders intensified his travel schedule. He drove from city to city, state to state, demonstrating his chicken. He'd arrive unannounced at restaurants during slow hours, ask to use the kitchen, and cook chicken for the owner and staff. If they loved it, which they usually did, he'd pitch the franchise. The pitch was straightforward. Use my recipe and pressure cooking method. Sell the chicken at premium prices. Pay me 4 cents per piece, and display Kentucky Fried Chicken signage. I'll provide the spice mix, which Sanders blended himself in his garage. You keep most of the profit. It's easy money. Slowly, restaurants agreed. By 1960, Sanders had 200 franchised restaurants across the United States and Canada. He was 70 years old, still driving his Ford, still sleeping in motels, still cooking chicken demonstrations personally. But now he was making money, approximately $300,000 annually from franchise fees, about $3 million today. Sanders created a commissary to pre-mix his spice blend, ensuring consistency. He hired staff to help manage franchises. He developed operations manuals specifying exact cooking times, temperatures, and procedures. He visited franchises unannounced, inspecting quality ruthlessly. If a franchise served bad chicken, Sanders would scream at the owner, sometimes threatening to terminate the agreement. His personality was abrasive. He cursed constantly. He insulted people who didn't meet his standards. But he was also charming and grandfatherly when he wanted to be. The Colonel persona, white suit, black string tie, goatee, became instantly recognizable. Sanders understood branding intuitively. By 1963, Sanders had over 600 franchised Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants. The 4 cent per piece model was generating substantial revenue, but Sanders was exhausted. He was 73 years old, traveling constantly, managing hundreds of franchisees, and overwhelmed by the business's growth. Sanders' franchise agreements were informal, often just handshake deals or simple contracts. He had no legal team, no corporate structure, no sophisticated accounting. He mixed spice blends in his garage with help from his wife Claudia. The operation was chaotic but profitable. Franchisees began pressuring Sanders to allow them to modify the recipe or use different cooking methods. Sanders refused absolutely. The recipe was non-negotiable. The 11 herbs and spices in exact proportions were the secret. Pressure cooking at specific temperature and time was mandatory. Any deviation destroyed the product. This rigidity caused conflicts. Some franchisees violated agreements using cheaper ingredients or incorrect methods. Sanders would show up unannounced, taste the chicken, and explode in rage if quality was poor. He terminated several franchises personally, screaming that they were ruining his reputation. Despite conflicts, Kentucky Fried Chicken was growing exponentially. Sanders appeared in television commercials, charming audiences with his southern accent and grandfather image. The white suit and string tie became iconic. Children loved the Colonel. Adults trusted him. KFC was becoming a national brand. But Sanders was aging. Managing 600-plus franchises was impossible for a 73-year-old man working from his garage. He needed infrastructure, lawyers, accountants, and managers. He couldn't scale the business alone. He needed partners or buyers. In 1964, at age 73, Colonel Sanders decided to sell Kentucky Fried Chicken. Managing the empire had become overwhelming. He wanted to secure his financial future and simplify his life. A group of investors led by John Y. Brown Jr., a 29-year-old attorney, and Jack Massey, a 60-year-old financier, approached Sanders with an offer. They'd buy Kentucky Fried Chicken's franchise rights, operations, and intellectual property for $2 million cash. Sanders would receive a lifetime salary of $40,000 annually, about $400,000 today, plus expenses to remain as company spokesperson and quality control inspector. Sanders negotiated hard. He demanded the right to approve any recipe changes. He insisted on personally reviewing franchise applications. He wanted control over Canadian franchises, which he'd keep ownership of temporarily. Brown and Massey agreed to everything. On July 5, 1964, the deal closed. Sanders received $2 million cash, about $20 million in 2024 dollars. After taxes and paying off debts, he walked away with approximately $1.4 million. For a man who'd been living on $105 monthly Social Security checks 8 years earlier, this was unimaginable wealth. Brown and Massey immediately modernized KFC. They created corporate structure, standardized franchising agreements, built commissaries for spice production, and launched national advertising campaigns. They took KFC public in 1966, raising millions for expansion. Sanders' informal garage operation became a sophisticated corporation. The timing was perfect. Fast food was exploding in 1960s America. McDonald's, Burger King, and other chains were growing rapidly. KFC under Brown and Massey's management joined this expansion. By 1970, KFC had over 3,000 locations. By 1971, more than 6,000 locations existed worldwide. Sanders remained as KFC's spokesperson and quality control auditor. He traveled extensively, visiting franchises and appearing in commercials. He became one of America's most recognizable figures. The white-suited colonel selling fried chicken became embedded in American culture. In 1971, Hubline Inc. purchased KFC from Brown and Massey for $285 million. Sanders' lifetime salary continued, and he received additional stock compensation. He remained KFC's ambassador until his death. Sanders became increasingly critical of KFC's quality after the Hubline sale. He publicly complained that the gravy tasted like wallpaper paste, and that the chicken wasn't as good as his original recipe. He sued KFC over a new product called Crispy Chicken that he claimed damaged the brand. The lawsuit settled, but Sanders' criticism embarrassed the corporation. Despite conflicts, Sanders remained KFC's face. He appeared in commercials worldwide. His image appeared on every KFC bucket, sign, and advertisement. The Colonel became globally recognizable, more famous than most politicians or celebrities. Sanders earned substantial wealth from his $40,000 annual salary, stock appreciation, and royalties. His net worth at death was estimated at approximately $3.5 million, about $10 million today. Modest by billionaire standards, but extraordinary for a man who'd started franchising at 65 with a $105 Social Security check. Colonel Harland Sanders died on December 16, 1980, at age 90, from pneumonia. Over 1,000 people attended his funeral. He was buried in his iconic white suit. Kentucky Governor John Y. Brown Jr., the same man who'd bought KFC from Sanders, ordered flags flown at half-mast. At Sanders' death, KFC had over 6,000 locations in 48 countries. The company generated over $2 billion in annual revenue. His face remained KFC's logo, instantly recognizable globally. Today, KFC has over 26,000 locations in 145 countries. The Colonel's recipe is still secret, still guarded obsessively, still driving billions in sales. Colonel Sanders started franchising Kentucky Fried Chicken at age 65 after receiving his first $105 Social Security check. He'd failed at dozens of careers: farmhand, soldier, railroad worker, lawyer, insurance salesman, ferry operator, tire salesman. His successful restaurant was destroyed by interstate highway construction. At 65, most people retire. Sanders got in his car and started selling fried chicken. For 8 years, he drove across America demonstrating his recipe, getting rejected hundreds of times, sleeping in his car, living on minimal income. He signed 600 franchises personally, mixed spice blends in his garage, and inspected restaurants obsessively. At 73, he sold the company for $2 million plus lifetime income. Sanders proved age is irrelevant. He became successful at 65. The Age Society says you're finished. He built a global empire through persistence, quality obsession, and refusal to accept defeat. His secret recipe and pressure cooking method were innovations, but his real genius was recognizing that consistency and branding could build franchise success. The man who lived in his car at 65 died wealthy at 90 with 6,000 restaurants bearing his name and face. That's not luck. That's persistence. That's refusing to accept that life ends at 65. That's proof that it's never too late.